First time DMing didn't go super great. I'm gonna guess you skipped session 0. Before you start a campaign, you have a session with your players where you discuss the upcoming campaign and everyone's expectations for it. How serious is the game? What kind of characters would be a good fit? How are the 3 pillars balanced in your style of play? Is PvP allowed? What lines and veils should everyone be aware of? Some players want to run around doing random crazy stuff. At most tables, that won't fly. It's good to lay that out ahead of time and then confront a player when they start doing stuff that's unacceptable. Don't be afraid to pause the action, and have an out-of-character discussion about what's going on if things are taking a turn that you don't like. The player was a jerk. With better communication you could have headed off their jerkness before it ruined your session. Don't give up on all that work. Just because you ran it once doesn't mean it's done. I've got one-shots and mini campaigns I've run for different groups over the decades multiple times. It sounds like a fun setting, and with the right group will likely be a blast. Figured you already had advice on the player. CE can be a lot like Evil Dead. It's not usually something picked by most players that want to have a collaborative experience. It's insanity and evil. Demon shit. Evil for the sake of evil. Agreed. When I played, our DM would not allow a chaotic evil, or chaotic neutral, character. He said they would never join a party of equals long enough to undergo a campaign. That is just fail RP. Chaotic evil characters are perfectly fine and there is just a general misunderstanding as to what chaotic evil allows and doesn't. People seem to think chaotic evil means they can do whatever they want, which is just chaotic stupid. Just doing whatever you feel like at the time can be a mechanism, but good chaotic evil characters still have motivations and goals, and believe it or not, emotions which would compel them to travel with a band of others. Good chaotic evil characters don't just do things for the hell of it, that is, again, chaotic stupid. The best way to describe it is they don't feel compelled to follow the law unless it benefits them, and they are not simply not good. They will kill if it would be easier or make sense, and they are guiltless for doing so as a means to an end. Necromancers are a good example of this. Chaotic evil characters are inherently selfish and will discourage rule breaking for anyone but themselves, as another example. They can still be markedly smart. In fact, they make for some of the most interesting smart characters because they are motivated entirely by their own desires. As long as that desire isn't be dumb random, then it's pretty annoying to just blanket bar them for that reason. Even as numb as I am after decades of existing on the internet, reading this post made me really sad. It seems like you put a lot of thought into making a fun little world for your party, and I hope you don't get discouraged because of this experience, because you clearly have a lot of good ideas and with the right players you could have a lot of fun DMing. A lot of people in this thread are saying you shouldn't let players play CE characters, and that's true. But more importantly than that, you should be sure that you're playing with people who actually respect the work you put into creating the game for them to play, and for the other people playing it with them. DM, there was one player whose character was chaotic evil, which was fine. Narrator, it was not fine. The moment the words chaotic evil player and first time DM were together, I braced myself for the ruin. I groaned the instant I heard first time DM, and I made a D&D campaign from scratch. Exactly. My top 3 new DM tips are: run a throwaway game with pre-built characters repeated 3 times in increasingly large font. My current DM is a first-time D&D player. All of his experience with it is BG3, let alone DM, and he insisted on creating everything from scratch for the campaign. The lore is tight and story progression is going well, but man, these first few sessions have been rough. Nah, I get you. I would also be upset if someone tried to ruin the world I built. However, I think you shouldn't have allowed him to play CE character. It's okay to say no, especially in cases like this. I understand that you might worry to not be a controlling DM, but this is something that affects whether you and your other players enjoy the game, and that's when you should step in. Also, in-game it made sense that the hang-on father was protecting his family. That was simply consequences of your player's action. Your world building sounds awesome, good work. The player was a jerk, and you were not a jerk, but there's something you can do better. Try this? There are a few things I need everyone's help with. Games like this can be really wonderful, but, for the game to work, everyone needs to do their best to contribute positively to the experiences of everyone else at the table. Anyone here has the power to make someone else's experience wonderful, or to ruin it. I need you all to use that power kindly. This is a campaign for heroic characters who will work together toward shared goals. I need everyone to make characters who want to join together in a party and share adventures to advance common goals. Is everyone on board to do these things? If someone pushes back on this and wants to play a different kind of game, acknowledge that they get to like what they like, and that your style of game might not be the right game for everyone, and if they want to play an evil chaos monkey murder hobo or whatever, they can do that, but they're going to have to do it in someone else's game, not the one you're DMing. Once the basics are settled, you might want to talk about lines and veils. Most games are better off with certain topics entirely excluded, and others only off camera. The lines and veils idea is an easy way to talk about having boundaries to help keep the game fun for everyone. You can find more about this and related topics in the TTRPG Safety Toolkit. Honestly, really cool and unique world, TBH. Not my style at all, but I think I'd even have fun with how much care you put into it. Have a do-over. Reuse it without that player and use it as a learning experience. Don't have chaotic evil or any evil for sure. This world feels like it's built for good old-fashioned do-gooder heroes, so lean into that. Require everyone to be good and let them know the theme of the world. For a first-time GM to do something that's not a generic fantasy kitchen sink LOTR is tough, but what you made seems a labor of love. Be proud. Imagine, if this was literally any other hobby than D&D, how ridiculous this situation would be. So hey guys, it was my first time playing football with a new group. However, once we started playing, one of our players took the ball, poked a hole in it, and threw it onto a roof. We let him keep playing, of course, so we decided to buy some extra balls. But he just kept poking holes into every single ball, and throwing them away. Eventually, I had had enough, so I took one of the balls he brought from home, poked a hole in it, and threw it away. Was I the asshole? S.A. D&D is for some reason the only hobby where actively and intentionally fucking everything over for the rest of the group is tolerated, until the point where someone gets fed up. Then, instead of having a conversation about the terrible behavior, they decide to punish them within the game. And this keeps happening. Again and again with new groups. I think it's a combination of two things. 1. New D&D players have trouble differentiating roleplay problems from real-life problems. If someone punctures your football, you stop inviting them to your football games. In D&D, people have this idea that everything that someone says happens has to happen within the world. It doesn't, that's why there's a dungeon master. And you don't solve these problems within the world. If someone is an asshole and says I kill the friendly NPC, you don't say, fine, you kill the NPC, but someone else kills you, you tell them please don't ruin our game. This is a warning. 2. The type of person who plays D&D is often on the more introverted, nerdy side, maybe they were ostracized from their classmates when they were kids. This can lead people to the mentality that we accept everyone, and you end up accepting the person who ruins the game for everyone else. When someone says, it's what my character would do, the appropriate answer is, then make one that wouldn't. Also if they're just trying to cause problems. Your character is free to make that decision if that is what you feel they would do in that situation. Every other character in the world will now also respond to that as any sane person would to those actions. For example, you kill the local livestock, then the local law enforcement are called, headed by a high-level paladin or fighter. You are most likely arrested, imprisoned, and treated as a criminal for the rest of your time in this town. He picked a chaotic evil character, definitely expect him to be a dick. With players like that, you need to set very clear boundaries on acceptable behavior, and keep them on a very short leash. And not allow them chaotic evil alignment. With that, I'd probably have booted him immediately when he destroyed the Infonome, retconned his existence, and have a much nicer time with the rest of the party. First time DMing will always fall short of expectations. I think your two biggest issues were expectations and balance. You need to set expectations for your players. Learn about how your players want to play their characters before they actually play them. The C player acted like an actual child. I have never seen a player older than 13 cause this much disruption, and then got angry when their actions had consequences. Which, again, is something only children tend to do. That brings me to the second point. Balance? You need some sort of in-world authority. Otherwise, players like that are going to destroy everything you've built and fail to learn from their mistakes. Have some sort of law enforcement that the players actively want to avoid messing with. I've run a city with a level 13 mastermind rogue as the ruler, another one protected by a powerful druid circle, and yet another with a police force lead by a level 7 paladin. Additionally, there is no way a character below level 5 should be able to kill a fully grown dragon. Unless the dragon is for some reason flightless and the player is a druid with spike growth. In which case the player is too smart to be playing like this. On a final note, as a rule of thumb, C and LG characters are by far the most disruptive. LG because they're far less likely to put up with other PC's shit and interfere with the party, and C because they're the most likely to destroy things and get in trouble with the rest of the party. Don't let players play C unless you absolutely trust them, and don't let LG players have authoritative characters unless, of course, you completely trust them. This player was not playing C right. A character that acts like this shouldn't exist. Simply because no humanoid survives longer than a week acting like this. They were playing a stupid evil character. Real C characters are more methodical and stealthy about killing. Orin the Red is a good example. Sucking at something is the first step to being kinda good at something. Sounds like you recognize a lot of lessons from the experience. If you take those lessons, and the advice of others here, you might just have a game in the future that does go super great. Chaotic evil, it can be fun to be a jerk sometimes, but this was over the top, in my humble opinion. You let him play the actual demon alignment. This is standard, and also why most evil alignments are frequently banned, especially for newer players and tables. And he rolled a nat 1. In retaliation. This is worded like a critical fumble, and then the enemy instantly crit killed the character. If you were already showing you had it out for him, then it's expected that he'd be upset. Because it looks like you used DM Fiat to kill the player's character maliciously. Solution: don't let people play chaotic evil alignments, have a session 0, learn to say no when people are derailing the campaign. Remember, as DM you have incredible power. If you have a player who is giving you fits just to give you fits, one good way to bring them back in line is to make the world react to them differently. Perhaps the donation box is indestructible, or worse yet, all damage done to it bounces back onto the attacking character. Illusions are also an excellent way to screw with wayward players. Or, sometimes you make creatures which are simply impervious to damage from chaotic evil players, etc. When a player is misaligned with the style of play the adventure calls for, I don't think it is a good idea to use DM fiat to punish their character. It further badly erodes belief in the secondary world, which the wayward player is already damaging with their nonsensical actions. It also isn't going to solve the problem. This is an out-of-character problem, and it is best handled out of character. The player isn't behaving in this disruptive fashion because they're earnestly role-playing a character and their character can be scared away by random damage. They're being disruptive because the player doesn't take the game seriously and wants to see what happens if they smash stuff. That's not going to change because something turned out to be an illusion or indestructible, or because the NPC was secretly a dragon in disguise. Why could your cereal milk dragon be killed by a single level 1 character? Why weren't there any guards or just any reaction to destroying property? He was just a little baby chaotic evil character. Hopefully you won't encounter that again, but you're going to face more complex situations that need to be handled with more tact than this. You did some amazing work setting up lore and a world, but spend some time listening to pro DMs and how to think on your feet and create consequences for chaotic insanity that your players will inevitably create, even good ones. But honestly, congrats. You did the hardest part and had a small stress test on your world and yourself. You did great putting it all together, and now you've already learned a lot about how to be a good DM. Don't give up, and good luck on the next one.
Hey there, fantasy fans. If you're looking for an epic listen, you have to check out Rosamund Pike's narration of the Wheel of Time audiobook. Rosamund Pike brings so much life to Robert Jordan's world. Her performance adds an extra layer of depth to the characters, making the story even more immersive. Whether it's her portrayal of the fearless Aes Sedai or the intense magical battles, she nails it. It's like experiencing the Wheel of Time in a whole new way. And here's the best part. You can get it for free with Audible's 30-day trial of Audible Plus. You'll get access to this incredible audiobook and more, completely free for a month. So if you're ready to dive into this massive fantasy world, this is the perfect way to start. Don't miss out. Check the link below and start your journey today. 100% free for qualifying people. Completely free. Click the link.
That sounds shitty. Sorry this happened to you on your first rodeo. Sounds like your player just wanted to smash the game up and be a jerk without consequence. My advice echoes a lot of the rest here. Have a session 0 to describe the tone of the campaign. Maybe give your players some of the info you were going to from the donation booth as a PDF leaflet welcome to Candyland ahead of the first session. Talk about what players are thinking for their PCs ahead. Stress that chaotic is the opposite of lawful, aka someone with little/no regard for laws or traditional social standards, not just a lack of impulse control. Stress that evil is more about selfishness, and not caring about hurting others in pursuing their own goals than just being a murderous dick. For most campaigns, make sure all players understand their char is going to be part of a party. A group. A collaborative effort. To achieve goals, within a collaborative role-playing game, and it's their responsibility to bring a char who would do that, not expect the DM to provide reason their grimdark loner char has to be in the party. I've found TM of non-podcast helpful. They provide a lot of good advice and encouragement. Oof. Sounds like your first campaign had a run-in with that guy, right off the bat. For the record, the player was the asshole in this situation. There's a reason the words "that's what my character would do" are a massive red flag, and this player is it. In any other situation, I would recommend a session 0 to weed these kinds of people out, but given your edits, yeah. That just sucks, and the best thing to do at that point is to ask if he can be booted from the event. Daddy Hare is a 6'5", mostly black, white-bellied antelope jackrabbit named Virgil. His wife is Maudie. She is 6 feet 4 inches and a mix between an English lop and a Flemish giant. Their baby, who was nearly killed, is named Peter, and he is a little bitty bunny about the size of an Easter cottontail. Yeah, guy is a dick, and I'm sorry this happened to you. You've crafted something lovely there, don't be put off. Run the same thing again with a session 0 and yeet anyone who picks a non-good, neutral alignment without talking to you about how that will work with the story you want to guide. Also, I might be a bad person, but I chuckled as I read that. Very happy tree friends. Sorry. I adore the idea of a cereal milk dragon. That's so precious. I'm sorry you experienced this. Just know that you are empowered to either A, roll with what happened and continue on, or B, start over with the remaining players now that this shitfuck is gone. You could also bring back any characters that were killed. It's your world and you, and the other players, get to decide. That sounds like such a fun idea for a game. That player was an asshole. Others have mentioned the importance of using session 0 to set expectations. I'm going to add that as a DM, you're allowed to say no. Don't shoot down the player's good ideas because they don't mesh with your story, of course. But you're allowed to just say, no, you may not be disruptive. No, you may not ruin this for the other players. No, you may not play a character who is at odds with your teammates. It's what your character would do. Then play a different character. Also, it's only unsalvageable if your group decides it is. If the other players still want to give it a go, you can just say okay, that didn't happen. Let's start here instead. I do hope you give it another run. You sound like you could be an awesome DM. Yeah, I don't allow C or N characters for my players. They're just no fun for everybody else at the table, and I'm not sacrificing multiple people's enjoyment so one guy can get off from turning on his ally. Lawful evil can work, but I need to know the player well and trust them, and other players can veto evil alignments in session 0 altogether. Always do a session 0 to explain your vision for the campaign, what will be tolerated, and what not. I, for one, absolutely despise chaotic evil shenanigans and outright ban the playstyle in any of my campaigns. Also, NTA. I would have booted the player the moment he told me to get a sense of humor, or that is what my character would do. What a complete and utter loser piece of crap person. Emo, the guy fucked around and found out lol. You did the right thing I think, but you perhaps could have been more assertive in saying no. For example, trying to destroy the info box could just not have worked. Burning down the tree might have been prefaced with "Are you sure you want to face those consequences?" before killing off that character in whichever way seems most consequential, I guess. The way you killed him off was a perfect example, in fact. To echo what others have been saying, I'd start over without that brat at the table. A Candyland campaign sounds so fun. I want to go to there. I'm in a campaign where we're rotating DMs after certain plot points have concluded, and one of us is a chaotic evil character, which is absolutely not a huge dumpster fire. Their character is with the party only because it benefits them, not because they care about them or their goals. They're not particularly endearing, on purpose, but they're not Tasmanian devil incarnate either, who actually is endearing, let's be honest. I'm trying DM for the second time ever, though it may as well be my first, tomorrow, and I'm fairly certain the C character isn't going to be a jerk just because. It can be done properly. I wish you the best in your DMing journey, praying gesture, Sparkles. Stuff like this is why I will never stop harping on the fact that DMs have an ultimate fiat called saying no. Literally all of this could have been avoided at numerous junctions, and all it would have taken is a simple 2-letter word. I want to play a chaotic evil character, no. I smashed the donation box with my sword, no. I attack 2 of the cows, no. I set fire to this tree, no. I cast sacred flame on these people, no. I attack the dragon, no. I attack the child, hang on, no. And that's literally all there is to it. Player says their character does something, and DM interjects with "no you don't." And if they whine about why not, It's as simple as because I say so or because you're ruining other people's fun. Because at the end of the day, D&D is about the people at the table having fun, and that includes the DM, not just the players. I'm still in the process of getting sessions flushed out on my family's first campaign, so you're technically now more experienced than I, but remember, you're basically God. That statue. It's made out of some stout shit, and attacks those who attack it. The farmer is an old war veteran who settled down, level 20 fighter, he's gonna do a warning shot for exactly 3/4 of his health. The dragon. He's small, kind, and cute, but he's ancient and has a F-load of HP, and candy-themed lair actions for those who aren't friendly. I think Daddy Hair was the right touch, just a bit too late. The dude was a troll. If he's gonna fuck with your campaign, have your campaign fuck with him. I am a first-time DM, and I am devastated. I made a D&D campaign from scratch: lore, NPCs, monsters, environment, etc. That tracks. As accessible as D&D is, there are a lot of things that need to be considered for games to be fun. It's not just I write a story and play it. That's a little bit of it, and even for that, people practice for months. There are rules, boundaries, expectations to be matched, mechanics to be understood, learning on how mechanics mix with the narrative, and many other things that you get when you follow a learning curve. Learning curve means reading or running introductory or starter set adventures. Running professionally written one-shots offered online for cheap or free. Practicing and learning improvisation before spending an unhealthy amount of time on a project that will certainly not run as you expect because you don't know how a regular game should feel. You need to know at a minimum if players have a similar idea of what they want to do. You don't punish the disruptive players in-game. That is mostly a waste of time. You take them out of the game for a break or completely. Preferably you don't include them from the start. With the learning curve and experience, you learn that quest-specific items or information can always find a way to get to players, unless you, for whatever reason, want them to miss out on things. Someone killed an important NPC. Introduce another one. The only thing that makes games unsalvageable is not addressing or dealing with problematic behavior before it burns out people. Run/read pre-written stuff. Get a hang on how storytelling works, how pacing works, how narrative can change based on player actions. Try again from the start. Mix scenes or just continue after a session 0. Apologize for bringing this person into the session and establish the type of game you would like to have. To be honest, it sounds like you both went overboard. Especially if you weren't playing an insta-death campaign where people who go to 0 hit points still get death saving throws. He was being a total jerk and deserved in-game consequences. But I'm not sure why the dad had advantage on his roll, and in a normal D&D game just being knocked to 0 hit points doesn't instantly kill you. Only if the damage beyond 0 hit points is your total hit points again or more. So your character that had 17 hit points, if he was at max and took 20 damage, that wouldn't instantly kill him. He would just be unconscious and bleeding out, requiring death saves. When it comes to DMing, you have all the power, so in most cases you have to be the bigger man. Getting annoyed with a player who's being turd and dishing out some consequences are fine. But when you bend the rules to instant kill someone, even the players who were playing nicely might look at that and be like, oh shoot, I better just play however the DM wants me to play and make sure I don't get on his nerves. Putting that character in a situation where he could have died would be a better solution, in my opinion. Show him the people can't just be walked on, and if he continues that way he very well could die. In other words, it's better, in my opinion, to put them in a situation that shows their actions have consequences and that they could get themselves killed if they being idiots, and that their own actions is what killed them, not a vengeful DM. Like maybe he got dropped by that guy's one attack. Then make it apparent that the dad is still planning to attack and kill this unconscious guy on his next turn. This also gives the party a chance to try and they're their companion if they want to. If the party decides not to intervene, then it shows that it wasn't just you. If the party does intervene and somehow convince this guy not to kill the player he sees came very close to dying due to his antics. If the party doesn't save him, it shows they thought he was a tool too and didn't see any value in trying to rescue him. He was trying to murder a 3-year-old rabbit boy who was the son of a weaponsmith. Virgil stormed out of the bunny bungalow behind C and got an attack of opportunity, ergo the advantage. It was an instakill because I had a headache, and my tolerance for bullshit was at 0. As a first-time DM, it's perfectly alright to limit PC character options. Telling your players that they can't play evil characters is not only a good idea, but should be the standard for any table where the players and DM are experienced enough to not cause exactly this kind of problem. 5e all but removed alignment from the game. It has no mechanical effect except for a few artifact-level magic items. So when a new player tells you, a first-time DM, that they're playing a chaotic evil, they're telling you they will not be a team player and will ruin your game. As someone who's GM'd D&D and other games for a long time, any character that goes out of their way to be evil will feel the full effect of the consequences of their actions. Of course I'd let someone play an evil character, but they're not entitled to get away from bad things happening to them just because they're a player. Hell no. You're the GM, never let players run how the game is being played. It'll always lead to disaster. Also, no campaign is actually ruined. Take what has happened and create a new adventure or plot. Nothing should be hardlined and railroaded, it makes for a bad experience for the GM and players. The most important, of not the only question to ask if someone says they want to play evil/chaotic evil is that's great. How are you going to make that fun for everyone, including myself? And if they don't have an answer, and I bet they won't have an answer, you kick them from the group. Seems harsh, maybe, but if someone is perfectly willing to ruin the experience for 3 to 4 other players, they are not a person you should waste your time on, and it won't matter if they make a lawful good character instead. I've never DM'd for a public campaign, but you really do have to prepare for total strangers. If your world isn't one that's ready for a C character, you're well within your right as a DM to tell that player no. If that means make a new character or find another table, then so be it. Sounds like you need to run it again with the players who behaved so you can all actually experience it properly. People have said to do a session 0 to set expectations. I wouldn't do it with the dickwad included. It boot the misbehaving player from the game. They acted with a level of uncare towards the campaign that I don't believe ordering them to make a character who doesn't ruin everything would actually change their behavior. I didn't want to be a hyper-controlling DM who said, actually, you can't do that because XYZ, try something else. For one thing, it's extremely hard to manage, and I think I speak for many when I say that balancing a game between moments of freedom and more dirigiste moments is an act of funambulism. Secondly, wanting a minimum of control isn't hyper-control, and you've confused the two. It doesn't matter. It's your first session and, by golly, if it's any consolation, I've seen far more violent crashes than this. Your world seems awesome, and please continue to exploit it. Take a video game. You've got a well-made, detailed map with monsters. The game wants to keep the players inside. There are several ways of doing this. The artificial way, which consists of putting up an invisible wall. It's ugly. It's the equivalent of the DM saying no, you're not doing that without further explanation. But it works. The more elegant way, which consists of placing a mountain range in your game that blocks the view and encircles the playing area. Better still. It's the equivalent of the DM saying On reflection, your character thinks it might be better not to provoke the ire of the authorities in this new world. His hands are itchy, but he's in control for the moment. The best way of doing this is with a zone of exhaustion, which translates your character's inability to get into inhospitable areas. It's particularly good in a game, because it suggests that there's a living out of field, and it's an RP way of expressing the virtual limit of your map. It's the equivalent of the DM preventing you from breaking the donation box by bringing in a curse, guard, charm, whatever, which will block the player's action. And then there are the games that aren't quite finished, and that don't have these limits. The player can go beyond the map, but will end up drifting into an uncoded no man's land, with no landmarks. And end up bugging the game. That's a game without any control, and it doesn't work in the case of JVs, nor in the case of a D&D.
Hey adventurers and fellow Redditors, are you tired of hearing the same old battle music during your D&D sessions? Or just looking for the perfect soundtrack for your next epic quest? Well, let me introduce you to Amazon Music Unlimited. With Amazon Music Unlimited, you get access to over 100 million songs, ad-free. That means whether you need an intense combat playlist, relaxing tunes for a tavern scene, or just something to vibe to while scrolling Reddit, we've got you covered. And it's not just about music, there are thousands of podcasts too. So if you need a break between campaigns, you can catch up on your favorite shows. Plus, there's the best part. If you sign up today, you can try it free for 30 days. No commitment, no hassle, just endless music and podcasts tailored to your taste. So whether you're crafting your next D&D campaign, painting minis, or just chilling with your party, make your soundtrack legendary with Amazon Music Unlimited. Hit the link below and start your free trial now, because every adventure needs a killer soundtrack.